Topic of NATOization, let me ask you about the dimensions of this that go beyond Ukraine itself. Asking you to talk about for the last 20 years, the U.S. has been continuously dismantling arms control treaties. The anti-ballistic missile treaty was dismantled in 2003. The Conventional Armed Forces in Europe treaty expired in 2007. Putin, in his Munich speech, vocally protested that. And countries like Romania and Poland have built these U.S. missile sites. The U.S. says that they're intended to protect Europe from Iranian
Iran.
missiles.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can comment on that and the role that this dismantling of arms control treaties, also the INF treaty, which expired under your administration, under the Trump administration, how that's contributed to Russia's feelings of feeling encircled, and how what those developments played into Putin's decision to invade Ukraine.
I think all of those issues contributed to the buildup in the minds of Russians of the need to protect themselves. There's no question about that. I think the decision on the INF Treaty was a serious mistake. The Russians, frankly, were shocked by it, but there was a huge lobby, all neocons on the inside of the administration as well as outside, who were trying to convince everyone that arms control was a waste of time. Arms control protected us in no way. Arms control should be abandoned. Now, I'm the first to admit that arms control is difficult because if you see a violation by one side or the other, you're very reluctant to admit it. Because if you tell the other side that you're aware of their violation, then you risk revealing that you have the collection capability, that you have sources, maybe even human sources on the ground reporting to you. So you have to judge the violation very carefully and decide whether or not it is egregious enough to justify bringing it to the table. Now, I was not part of the INF talks at the time, but I was told by several people, you have to know, you have to understand, they're not doing what they said they would do, and we have to pull out of this. And I looked at the evidence that I could see, and all of it seemed to point in the direction of Russian paranoia about our behavior. And you mentioned the missile sites down in Romania, for instance, and I had suggested on one occasion, why don't we invite Russian officers to come over and view it? If we're absolutely convinced that this is all for the purpose of defending ourselves against a potential Iranian ballistic missile attack, then we should bring them in and let them look at it and satisfy themselves that this is no threat to Russia. Well, you can imagine the response that I elicited. I was told that I'd lost my mind and this was never going to happen, which leads me to believe that these things had very little to do with Iran and a great deal more to do with Russia. Again, you're always weighing, as a great power, the wisdom of doing something or not doing something on the assumption that what you do is going to have an effect on your potential opponent. I don't think we've done a good job of that. And I think we have too readily dismissed the potential adversary as too weak economically and too backward in many ways to respond. That's not true. That has never been true. The difference in the size of the economy is real, but that does not reflect on the Russian military or on the quality of its scientific and technological capabilities. So I think we put ourselves in this position, and we did so very, in my judgment, very cavalierly because we actually did have a long period of time where we had established a degree of mutual trust and cooperation. And all you have to do is look at the space programs, look at the extent to which we purchased Russian rocket engines, look at the cooperation we've had with them on the JCPOA and other things. This has not been a black and white situation, but we are now transforming it into one, which I think is stupid, self defeating, and unproductive. And of course, we're not thinking at all about the blowback on ourselves economically and in other ways. And we talk about proliferation of dangerous technology. Well, the Russians have been very good about not necessarily providing much of what many of their alleged friends or temporary partners have wanted. What will they do in the future, given the way we have treated them? I don't know, but I don't see much good happening. It does worry me a great deal.